That day, the 14th of August, 1945. Okay. I was 10 years old during the summer of 1945. The Michaud family, who lived upstairs in our apartment house in Astoria, had a summer home in Bengal, New York, a small village 20 miles north of Poughkeepsie in Dutchess County. For a few years, I was invited to spend the summers there. Bengal was a welcome diversion from the streets of Astoria. It had a large farmhouse and was used as a country inn during the summer. Boarders would come and go every week. Some stayed all summer. There was a large barn and hundreds of acres of rolling farmland Mr. Michaud no longer farmed. Economic conditions in the Hudson Valley would not support a family farm. There was a stream that ran through the property. The water was dammed at one point where the land dropped off to create a waterfall. The dammed area before the fall was deep enough to create an ideal swimming hole. Summers in Bengal were a delight. Mr. Michaud owned a 1930 Ford Model A sedan that had been modified and converted into a truck. The body had been cut away behind the driver's seat, the rear seats of the sedan had been removed, and that area was converted into a flatbed truck with 2x6 planks forming the floor and the sides of the vehicle. I learned how to drive on that old converted car. In a large meadow, Mr. Michaud taught me how to use the clutch and shift the transmission as the tinny-sounding engine propelled the 15-year-old truck over the bouncy fields. It was great fun for a 10-year-old. Nazi Germany had surrendered on May 8th. That was my mother's birthday. The war in the Pacific continued at a ravage rate. The newspapers reported there were many casualties as our troops fought from island to island in a progressive march toward Japan. Soldiers from the European theater were already on troop ships en route to the Pacific. They would be part of a planned assault on the Japanese homeland. All of this was happening far away from remote little Bengal. We had a small kitchen radio and a local morning newspaper. Most homes in that area did not have telephones, and some had no radios. Television did not exist. The atomic bomb blasts at Hiroshima and Nagasaki created great interest. The kids thought it was certainly a terrific weapon that would end the war soon. We learned the war was over in the late afternoon of August 14th. Mr. Michaud took the old Ford out of the barn. Mrs. Michaud and her 2 teenage daughters joined him in the front seat. Several adults, teenagers, and young kids, along with a large shepherd dog, jumped into the wooden bay of the truck. I stood in the center of the truck holding on to the cutaway roof as the old Ford moved onto the rural road in front of the house. Mr. Michaud, a decorated veteran of World War I, sounded the horn repeatedly as he made his way down the road. Auga, auga, blared the Model A horn as we entered the driveway of the houses on the narrow, high-crowned macadam road. We cried out, "The war is over! The war is over!" as we drove up to each house and announced the happy fact to the startled inhabitants. They came out of their houses and they waved back happily. At times, Mr. Michaud drove right over the lawns to reach the house. The Model A bounced and the horn blared, and we all held on tightly and shouted with joy. The last home on the road was owned by Mr. Martin, a man in his late 40s. He had been gassed in the First World War and was in frail health due to his damaged lungs. A tall, gaunt man with silver intruding into his thick, dark hair, he was standing on the porch as we drove up. When he realized what we were shouting, I saw tears streaming down his face. The war was over. The killing and the maiming would end. I will never forget the happiness and the relief we all experienced that August afternoon in 1945. And I have a picture here of the truck with all of us that were in the truck.
Nobody was happy.